Good afternoon, adventurers. That's right. You know what time it is. It's time for John's Dungeon Corner. It's 1 o'clock on a Friday afternoon here at the Collective in Altamont Springs, Florida. That's right. We got some goodies on the table. Going to talk about some good stuff. Yeah, I even made some notes. Can you believe it? Notes. Notes are important every once in a while, especially when you want to talk about in depth about something. Although we're really not going to talk about any one thing in depth, but we're going to answer a couple questions and then kind of go from there, right? Happy Friday, Sarah. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. All right. So let's talk about some of the cool stuff that's out. Now, remember, I sometimes bring up half a dozen things or so. Maybe there's three, maybe there's a dozen, but the store is packed. I just can't bring it all up here, but I wanted to highlight a couple things that are really, really neat. So over here, I know that people have been saying, hey, I got some questions. Are there magnetic trays? Are there anything with magnets? Because a lot of stuff being done with magnets. And are there bigger trays? Hey, Antonio, welcome to the show. All right. Two of my favorite people. Look at that. Gotta love it. Yesterday was Antonio's birthday. So happy birthday, Antonio. I know it was yesterday, but it's always nice to let the folks know what's going on. We went out to the Cheesecake Factory. It was good. We had a good time. There's always time for you got to make time for family. It's very important. So, all right. So, talking about that. So, back to the magnetic trays. These are magnetic dice trays that go together. These are XL dice trays, which are kind of really cool. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. And then you got the personal dice trays here. Okay. Little smaller still. It's just magnets that hold it together. It's really neat. Real cool concept. Here, let me take this one here and I'll show you what it looks like. Look at that. Oh, wow. I don't even have to go see. And here's the cool part. They're reversible. So you can have a green one day and a black the other. It reverses itself. So you got two different game mats, really. All right. So if you wanted to use like the green for your character when you're a player, because that's your favorite color, and then use black as a DM, you can. So that's really neat. Okay, those are really cool. Same thing with the small one. The small one does the same thing. All right. Right. You can reverse it. So that's really cool. Now, I'll tell you what is really neat, I think, about this big one. Okay, so especially if you're a game master, all right, and you want to kind of, not everybody has a dice tower, or a dice tray, or anywhere to roll onto the table. You get one of these big ones, and you just put it in the middle of the table, and you say, anybody needs to, there you go, you roll in there. Okay, that'd be kind of cool. Or, maybe somebody's dice tower is just not working for them that day. It kind of gives them another. I just think it's neat. I just really think they're really neat. They're quite a big size. Let me read how big they are. Of course, I need my magical lenses of seeing. All right, let's see how big this thing is. It's reversible. Comes in a lot of colors. Inchwise, inches. Let's see what we got here. Aha! It's in millimeters. All right. So we got 271 millimeters by 271 millimeters. That's pretty big. I'd say that's about 10 inches, huh? Maybe. I don't know. It's big, though. I've seen one out. It's nice. It's really nice. I'm going to leave this one turned around like this so that you can remember that it is reversible. All right. And they come in a lot of cool colors. I just have the pink, the purple, and the green here. Pink because it's October, Pinktober, and good color, good color. All right. So then, of course, now, if you want more information on this, you got to really go and check this out. This is beautiful. This is the Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse. Now, this set of three, okay, this has 3 books in it. It has Mort's Planar Parade, Sigil and the Outlands, Turn of Fortune's Wheel. And if I remember correctly, Antonio sat there and said that this one has a lot of monsters and things like that. It explains some really cool stuff out there. One's an adventure, Antonio, and one's more informative of how to run the campaign, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, though. He knows a little bit more of this. He got this for his birthday, and it's something he was looking for. So, by the way, this is the normal version of this, all right? There is a special edition, which is what Antonio got, and it's gorgeous. It's different artwork. It's amazing. It has a gorgeous map in it, a DM screen, the event. It's amazing what they're doing. Price is amazing. It's really good. Very affordable. And if it's something that you definitely want to do the Planescape concept and you want to do all that run around out there, then I definitely think that that's a must set of books for you. Okay. Like I said, the universe keeps expanding. It gives you, you got sci-fi, you got water, you've got underwater, you've got subterranean. I mean, it's just amazing, 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 amazing. I love it. Okay, now, last but not least, let's talk about miniatures because we know how much I love miniatures. So these are two of the new miniatures that have come in. This is actually a solar dragon, not a white dragon. This is actually a solar dragon. All right. Very nice looking, very majestic, very powerful. All right. That's a solar dragon, not a white dragon. So I want to make sure you guys know that. And this, of course, is a brass dragon here. Really good looking dragon. I mean, look at that. I love the way they did his tail. Look at his tail, right? It's all fanned out and open. It's unique. I love the way they actually did the tail spike. Very cool. Look at that. I like it. That is neat. And now, of course, these dragons are just some of the large figurine dragons that are here at the collective. I mean, they have quite a few. So that's always a nice thing, right? Okay, so now let's talk about of course, in dice. You know, dice are always fun. I always have the big dice. And sometimes we haven't found a dice sponsor yet, so I've been using the generic big D6s and big D20s until such a time. Although if something neat comes out, I like to show it off. Of course, you know, the collective carries quite a few different types of dice by different manufacturers. So that's always a good thing. What was your question? The books, Mort's Planers Parade, Sigil and the Outlands, Turn of Fortune's Wheel. I remember you saying something that one was a campaign explained, the one explained and gave you more character classes or something like that, or more backgrounds to use, and then the other one was kind of like a monster folio kind of thing. Just throw it up there. I mean, I know that you said that last night, but I can't remember. You know, I'm not using every single one of the different books. So Antonio has quite a collection of books, and that's something that he's planning on using. So if you could just explain what the different books are and what they're for, you know. So okay, now let's get on to the questions. The questions, and they're actually really neat questions. This is the last October show that we'll do, and then of course, you know, this was our second year anniversary. We started in October of 21, and here it is, October of 23. We're still going strong. It's been a lot of fun, and we're going to keep going strong. And new stuff is coming out, and more questions are being asked, and you know, people are wondering about certain things. So turn that down so it doesn't make any noise, right? All right. So here we go. Let's talk about. So one of the questions, and this was kind of funny because I was talking about campaigns. This and the other. Oh, something I have to remember to tell you folks. Okay. The Halloween Spectacular is going on. It started yesterday, the 26th. It's going to go on all the way through Halloween here at the collective. So make sure that you come by. There's a lot of different things going on. Check their website to see what's happening when. Okay. I think some of the things are dated. Some of the stuff is going on the whole time. So okay, so there you go. So we have one is an adventure book, one is like a player book, and the other one is a monster book and gives you other information. So there you go. It's Mort's Planer Parade, Sigil and the Outlands, and Turn of Fortune's Wheel. So there you go. That's kind of the general idea behind them. Now, so let's talk about some of the things that are going on online, right? So one of the questions and this is kind of fun because people want to know, you know, I always ask, so what do you like about this? What do you like about that? And in turn, you know, it's only fair if people ask me, hey, so what do you think about something? So one of the questions that I was asked was, what is my favorite campaign setting? What is my favorite campaign setting and why? Okay, so I gave this some thought because there's a lot of campaign settings, including my own that I have, and I love that because I'm actually creating it. But you can't go out and get mine. You can't go buy mine somewhere, right? And play in it. Nor if you haven't played in it, can you really kind of see, you can't really get the gist of what I'm doing in it either. So out there, I'd say that out of the campaigns that have existed, I'd say my favorite is probably the Forgotten Realms. And I'll tell you why. It's not just the game itself that happens in that world, but I've read a lot of the books. I have a whole collection of Forgotten Realms books, and it varies. I mean, it goes from the Harper series to the Moonshade Isles to the monk, Cadbury, that from Candlekeep, and it just goes on and on and on. And there's so many adventures and just so many books that I've read about it, series that are just amazing. They'll enthrall you, and that's really kind of brought that world together for me. Being able to read about characters, and not just about characters, but there's some really good descriptions. And something I learned from these books is how to describe. How do you describe a mountain range when you're in it, as you're looking at it, a field, the hills, a castle in the distance. And it's really because when you read books, it helps you imagine these things yourself. It describes them to you, and that in turn gives you a foundation that now when you DM, or when even someone describes something, you kind of have an idea of what it's like, of what's being described to you, right? Because you've read about it. Now, it's also, it's also home to three of my favorite characters, okay? It gave rise to three of my favorite characters. And the first one, and I'm sure that he is a favorite to a lot of people, is Drizzt Do'Urden. He's a dark elf, kind of just a little something. He has a whole series of books dedicated to him, and of course he's part of the Companions of the Hall. He's a very accomplished. He's a ranger, and he's a very, very accomplished adventurer. And you kind of see him, and in the books you kind of see that character as he grows from where he came from, which was Menzoberranzan, the dark elf, one of the dark elf cities. I'm not going to tell you his story and that, but if you read the books by R.A. Salvatore, it's just amazing. Okay, he is an amazing adventurer, and he is a drow, a dark elf. Okay, so yeah, but he's definitely at the top of my list as one of my favorite all-time characters. Now, right behind that, and then the three characters are so funny because they're all kind of interwoven and related in one way or another. His arch nemesis, Artemis Entrelli. Now, Artemis Entrelli is a human, okay? And he has always been his rival. He has hated him. He has been friends with him. He has befriended him. He's worked with him, together with him. It's the craziest thing in the world, this whole thing with Artemis and him. He's an amazing swordsman and tactician. Artemis, I think, is probably one of the very few people in the entire Forgotten Realms that's been able to go toe-to-toe with Drizzt in duels. And this guy goes out of his way to create these opportunities for them to fight because he is dead set on finding out who the better swordsman is. And they've as you read the books, they always get interrupted one way or another in the earlier ongoings. And it's not simple interruptions either. I'm not going to ruin anything for you, but if you want to read them, Entrelli's there. Artemis Entrelli, he's amazing. And he's human, by the way. Now, he's got a few little things that help him out, but nonetheless, and he's a tactician beyond belief. He's really neat. And the word tactician, when you're reading about somebody who's a tactician, you're like, okay, what does that got to do with the game? And how does that play into it? Well, that's something that you just got to read about and kind of figure out for yourself at that point. Now, the last one is also a dark elf. He's from the Underdark, although his character is multifaceted, very diverse, and just he's known by so many names. It's crazy. Okay, I'm talking about Jar-Axel Bonray. He's a dark elf, as I said, and he's the leader of bringing the Arth. I'll probably mispronounce it a million times. The Arth, and they're a mercenary band of rogues in the Underdark, and that's what's crazy in the Underdark. This guy is probably the most powerful, if not the most powerful, right up there with the most powerful of the Dark Elf males. And as we all know, if we know anything about Dark Elves in the Drow, is that they're a matriarchal society whose patron is Loth, and they are just wicked. And we'll leave it at that. And when I tell you that he is probably one of the most influential and very powerful males down there, that's saying a lot. Okay? That is saying a lot. So I'm going to leave it at that. But those are my 3 favorite characters, and kind of what brought, to me, kind of brought the Forgotten Realms together as a campaign. Because once you read the books and you have that setting, and of course, as you read the Forgotten Realm books, Sword Coast, this, that, the other, and you get all this knowledge inside of you, you're kind of like, wow, I know this place. So when somebody says the Sword Coast, or they talk about Neverwinter or Baldur's Gate, not only just, and plus there's the games also. See, so that lens, that gives you information too, because the games are based on the books, which are based on the D&D setting, and Candlekeep, and just all these different things that happen where you're kind of like, you feel like, hey, even though this is a brand new campaign, I'm a first level character, I've heard of these things. I've heard of these people. And if you ever get to meet them, you're like, whoa, this is kind of cool, right? So there you go. That's why. So along with that, my second favorite, and which was actually my first campaign setting that I played in and ran, was Greyhawk. And Greyhawk, oh my gosh, I think Greyhawk's got to be the oldest of them as far as a campaign setting, because that came out back when back in the day with Gary Gygax and Ernie and Dan Arneson and all them were doing stuff together. So Greyhawk is a very memorable campaign, not just because it was the first, but it's got some of the most famous, infamous adventures of all time. I mean, that when you say some of these names, you're like, whoa, yeah. Whoa, time out. So the first among them, and some people will know this and not, is Greyhawk, Castle Greyhawk. Okay, that was one of the first dungeons, I think. I want to say it was. And the thing about that was it had like 50 plus levels. It was insane. 50 plus levels of monsters for you to explore. It was just crazy out of control. A mega dungeon. It just went on and on and on and on. It was wild. And if you've never gotten to play it, maybe someday you get somebody who has it, who wants to run it and can just run it. And they can even update it, because the monsters are monsters, but it's just the whole concept of like there's 50 plus levels, and you go on and on and on and on. So I love it because of that. Now, my favorite series, and I call it a series because all these can be played either individually or interconnected, and I love it as a series where you can play them all together. So you start off as the Temple of Elemental Evil. And it starts off in the village of Hamlet. That's the first book. And it has a couple pieces to it. Then there's the Temple of Elemental Evil itself, which is 3 modules. And then the Slave Lord series, which is has 4 modules in it. Okay, so it goes the village of Hamlet, the Temple of Elemental Evil, and then after that, there's a slave. You find out that there's this big conspiracy. You go on into the Slave Lord series. That's 4 modules, which then leads into some real trouble with the Giants. There's the Giant series. That's the G series, and there were 3 modules to that. If I remember correctly, it was Steeding of the Hill Giant Chief, something with the Frost Giant King Jarl, Lair of the Frost Giant King Jarl, and I think the last one was Steeding. No. First one was the Steeding of the Hill Giant Chief. Then the Halls of the Frost Giant King Jarl, and then the last one had to do with it was the Fire Giants. But I can't remember. I mean, this has been forever since I saw those. And then after that, you went into the Vault of the Drow. Oh boy, that was scary. There was 2 modules to that. And they were amazing. I think one of them was called Vault of the Drow. It was 2 modules. There's another one. And then last but not least was Q1, which is the Queen of the Demon Web. And I think they came out for the second part to that. But the Queen at the time that I played, it was only the Queen of the Demon Web. And wow, let me tell you, when you finished that, you were just it took a while. It was amazing, well written, concise, and there were so many little paths that you could go off to do side adventures. A lot of fun, and that was definitely a Greyhawk series modules. That's kind of what made Greyhawk Greyhawk. There was so much cool information out there on that. Now, my last, simply because I had read the books by Tracy Weiss and Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, who wrote the Dragonlance Chronicles, the Dragonlance series. And I read them, and then the Adventures came out, and it was really neat. That's really, where I got introduced into one of my favorite villains. And everybody knows this guy, Lord Soft, Knight of the Black Rose. He is just unique. He has a very interesting background, which I'm just not going to get into. But he started out as a knight and ended up a death knight, riding a nightmare. And he goes into Ravenloft and has his tiff with oh my gosh, I sometimes forget the names. The Ravenloft Lord, the vampire. But anyway, so that's a different storyline. But anyway, so it's also the Dragonlance world is really neat because it has the two gods that are really fighting among each other, which is Tiamat and Bahamut. But Bahamut is walking the world. It's a place where one of the gods walks around. Strahd, thank you, Count Strahd, appreciate it. Von Zurovich, Zurich, yeah. Anyway, in Krynn, which is the world of Dragonlance, you have a god that's walking around as an absent-minded wizard named Fizbin. And there's knights orders and there's dragons that are prominent in the storyline. It's just really neat. It's got a really interesting story about a group of adventurers that are called the Fellows of the Inn Fellows. And basically they meet at this inn, and there's this inn where Tanis, that's the half-elf, Tanis half-elf. He eventually becomes a hero, a very interesting hero. So as he works for people, like the dwarf that he works with becomes he's a metalsmith, and he works for him, and he becomes part of the adventuring group. His name is Flint Fireforge. There's this half-elf, what is his name? Tasselhoff. Taz for short. Tasselhoff Burfoot. He's a Kinder, which is basically their version of the halflings. The hobbits. Hobbits, halflings. The halflings in D&D. And he's trying to steal, I can't remember, a bracelet or bracers or something that belong to Flint, and Tanis catches him. Anyway, he becomes a part of the group. And then there's the woman, the human woman that he falls in love with, Kitiara, who joins the group for a while and then goes off. But through Kitiara, he meets. Hey, welcome to the show, brother. Glad you're watching. But anyway, so Kitiara, which is his love interest, through her he meets her two half brothers, which is Rosalind and Caramon. Rosalind is a mage from the Tower of Sorcery. He's got like this golden skin, and I'm not going to ruin it for him, but he's a very powerful mage. And then it's Caramon, who he's a little slow, but he's an amazing warrior, simply amazing. And then they have a friend called Stern Brightblade, who's a knight. So the seven of them form a group, and that's called the Inn Fellows. And they go on adventures, and it's just it's an amazing storyline. So that's part of that world too. It's all, this is all, and there's more to the world, obviously, but this is like the focal point, and these are like the focal characters. So when Dragonlance came out as a campaign, it was really neat to be able to go on adventure. Once again, the neat thing is to read these books, right, that interest you, and then you get to play in the world that you're reading about. So you've got descriptions that you can go back and read about. You've kind of heard stories about these heroes and these people. Whether you meet them or not, the stories are there. Especially if you're a bard, you can have so much fun with the knowledge because you may not know, you may not have been there, but you know the stories, and they might be a little different than the actual story that of the truth, but that's just the way it is because that's the way things are passed down, right? Um, so those are my three favorite worlds. The different people that kind of inhabit them, why I like them, and of course, one of my favorite worlds. Of course, one of my favorite worlds is the one that I'm creating and kind of like using it as a foundation to hopefully end up writing some books and some fun stuff there. So anyway, moving along. So somebody asked, and this is kind of funny because, like I said, I sometimes leave questions. Listen, to everybody who goes to John's DC 2021 and sends me a question or a comment or something, sometimes I kind of put these in like I call them a holding area. For lack of a little holding area that I have is a little file folder that I have with questions that need more because they're questions that by themselves are just a question. And if I did nothing but questions, that's cool. But I want them to I want stuff that leads into questions so you kind of have an idea. And that's the way I set this question up. Because, so one of them was, what kind of name is acceptable for an adventuring party? Wow. Just about anything, really. But acceptable, I don't know. I mean, unless if it's an all-adult game, you can pretty much call it whatever you want, But the reason I did this question now is, for example, okay, so in the Forgotten Realms setting, right? I just talked about Drizzt Do'Urden and all his companions, and all his like Bruder Battlehammer. It's what I'm talking about, and Canterbury and Regis and them. So they're called the Companions of the Hall. That's their adventuring party. Companions of the Hall because they came from they met in Bruder Battlehammer's hall, which is anyway. That goes. I'm not going to get into all that, but so they call it the Companions of the Hall. All right. Now in Dragonlance, I just told you, there's Tanis Half-Elf and the heroes. They have a simple. They met at this inn, and they're called the Inn Fellows. That's just the name of their adventure party. That's what they're known as, the Inn Fellows. So those are two simple names, and this leads me to this. You can use names from stories, obviously, right? You can use stories from animations, from just about anywhere. I mean, whatever you want to call it. There's no, there's been groups called the Black Metal Scorpions, the Black Wraith Legionnaires. So you can use colors, you can use fantasy creatures. I mean, you can even use. It's endless. You could take like a color. You could take a flower. You could take a fantasy creature of some kind, a setting, and go for it. Like a setting, and then like the Companions of the Hall. The setting is the hall, the Mithril Hall, right? What becomes Mithril Hall. The Inn Fellows, they started in an inn. You can name yourselves after something. You can borrow names from animation. I mean, I think one of the coolest names, and I actually used it for one of our campaigns, is the Debauchery Tea Party. Now, where does that come from? It actually comes from an animation called Long Horizon. And it's not even the name of an adventuring guild or anything. It's just a group of individuals that would get together and go on these raids together. And with Long Horizon is about a bunch of players that get trapped in a game, right? Long Horizon. And so they're stuck there. But when they used to play, they were called the Debauchery Tea Party. They were amazing adventures. They did all the high-level raids and all that. I just think it's a cool name, the Debauchery Tea Party. Well, what's it mean? It doesn't mean anything. It's just a cool name. All right? I just like that name. So there you go. And the names go on and on and on. You could call yourselves Fairy Tale if you like Fairy Tale. You could call yourselves the Star Dragon Warriors. The Followers of Pelor. It goes on, and there's really no, what is the word? There's no Formula. I think that's the way you do it. There's no real formula to create it. You just create whatever sounds cool. Sometimes it may sound silly. Sometimes it may sound fantastic. Sometimes it may not make any sense, but that's okay too. You can have a group that's named an elven. I don't know, a dwarven adventuring group. That's a dwarven name or something. The Mithril Hunters, the Adamantine Clan. I don't know. Just on and on and on, right? So that's one of the questions. And you see how I kind of fit it in there when I talked about this, because this sounded really like a great idea. And along those lines, let's kind of segue into our next question that somebody asked me is, they always see, and guys, so when you see all this stuff up here, when I put out dice trays and little dice trays and these new sets of books and all these miniatures, don't feel like this is what you have to have in order to play the game. Not at all. And when you go and watch other people who have, you'll see them and they have all kinds of cool stuff. I didn't put my books up there today because I wanted to get this going. I wanted to kind of show you this but you guys know the Player's Handbook, the DM's Guide, the Monster Manual. Are they essential to the game? Yes. At some point, yes. But like I said, a lot of the starter campaign sets, and I'll tell you, the Phandalin, the Mines of Phandelver is an amazing adventure. It's got its book out now. It's got the box set. I don't even know that the box set is actually available anymore, but I definitely would. I always say that is an amazing place to start. If you've never DM'd, the price point is fantastic. It's $19.99 for the starter box. Comes with everything that you need. And as far as dice, okay, so yes, I have tons of dice. A lot of my players have lots of dice. It's just a fun thing to collect. Do you have to have that many? Absolutely not. Let me tell you, at bare bones minimum, I would definitely say when you first start out, get yourself a set. But as time goes on, if you really like the game and enjoy it, I would get a second set. And then I get a couple of extra 20s. Depending on what your class is, you might want to get some extra 6s or 8s. It just depends on what you're using for damage. Okay. But I wouldn't say you need full 5 full sets. If you want 2 full sets, that way you have for advantage when you roll advantage, or if you critical, you at least have 2 of the dice that you use. I'd always get maybe an extra couple of extra 6s. And that way you have for character creation. If you're doing the 4, kick out the lowest one or whatever they're doing. Okay. 2 sets of dice with a couple of extras. Dice there's inexpensive dice out there. You can get all that for under probably like $15. Kid you not, it can be done. All right. And in your favorite colors even. Okay. That's the crazy part. So there you go. As far as dice for a player, you need a pencil, paper. There you have it. The miniature, it's a later thing. Some DMs don't even use miniatures. Some do. Some will help provide one until you decide, hey, I like to get one. And miniatures, listen, you can just get a plain little miniature. Okay. Like $5. And you can paint it later or just use it like that. There you go. This is me. I like the way this looks. And you can paint it, have somebody else paint it, leave it like that forever. Who cares? Right? You got your miniature. You can go as high as going to get your own full color custom online one from Hero Forge. I love them. I give them props because they do good work. My party is almost all their miniatures. All the party miniatures are pretty much Hero Forge miniatures, but they're exactly what they wanted them to be. You know what I'm saying? So there you go. And I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes they have these cells you can gift them because a couple of players got them as gifts from other players or from their parents and stuff. All these things make great gifts. And, Christmas is coming up. So if you're just starting out in Dungeons and Dragons and you want to start a miniature, but you're going to school, whatever, you can ask for it as a gift. Gift certificates. And here I go, right? Christmas is around the corner. Gift certificates from the collective are an amazing way to give someone a gift. They're looking for a miniature, and watch. Let me tell you something. A miniature, you can get a miniature and those dice for under $20. So a $20 gift card is an amazing gift. Okay? And then it goes up from there. Do you want your own player's handbook? You know, do you want more information? So you go and get this book. And you don't have to. I want more dice. I want a more colorful miniature. And there are full color miniatures you can buy also. And that's under $10. Under $10, you can have a fully painted miniature. There you go. Yeah, you just open it up, put it up, glue it on its base, and there you go. You're ready to rock and roll. Once again, for under $20, you can have that painted miniature and the 2 sets of dice. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. If you don't believe me, come down here and I'll show you how to do it. Meet me down here on a Wednesday night, or send me an email and say, "Hey, John, can you help me? This is my budget. I'd like to come down there. I'll help you out." That's the D&D players, dungeon masters, the staff here will happily. If you tell them, "Hey, I'm working on a budget. This is what I got." John said that I could do this for under $20. For $20, I can do this. Because remember, Uncle Sam's got to have his part, so there's tax involved in all this. But John said that I could get a fully painted miniature and 2 sets of dice, and you can. Trust me when I tell you, I've helped people do it. It can be done. Don't let somebody tell you that no way. Yes way. All right? So that's what I'm telling you. So, and depending on where you want to go with D&D, will dictate. And you do it at your own pace. Some of us, you got to remember, I've been playing this for a long time. A long, long time. You know, Antonio, a lot of these DMs, some of them are new, but they want to invest in it. You do this at your pace. No one's going to dictate to you what you have to have and don't have. Thank you, Sarah. What time the days and times are Fiona's terrain classes coming up? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to tell them to fix that on the web. So Fiona's classes on November 4th, which is a Saturday, and the following weekend Sunday, which is the 12th. Now, write this down. In fact, type this in there for me, Sarah. On November 4th, Saturday, November 4th, 10 to 2. It's a 4-hour class. It costs $10. And that will get you, I don't remember how many tiles it was, but it was a lot of tiles. Okay. She's going to bring everything that you need. You get to use the cutter that you saw last week. All that stuff that you saw, the paints, everything's going to be supplied for you. That's what the $10 are for. And it's well worth it. Let me say, for $10, you're going to get to experience tile making, right? With everything that's available, like top of the line available, with someone who really knows what they're doing. And then you can decide if it's something you want to do or not. And for $10, that's a great investment in that. Okay. You don't have to go out and buy nothing. You just $10, you sit down, dedicate however much time you want to it, make it first time and go from there and decide yay, nay. All right. So that's one. So Saturday, November 4th from 10 to 2 is $10. Now, Sunday, November 12th from 11 to 3. Same thing, $10. Same exact, you're going to do the same thing on both days. So unless you want to make a bunch of tiles, right? You don't have to come to both of them. They're the same exact classes. They're just one's on a Saturday, one's on a Sunday, so that people can come. It gives you 2 days, 2 opportunities to come and do it. All right. Sarah, would you mind writing that on there for me so that people can actually see it? That'll be awesome. It's $10 on either day. If you wire to come both days, it's $20 and you get all those tiles. And it's quite a few tiles because the sheet is used. If you go back to last week's show, you'll see the sheet that you're going to make it out of. And I think you can make like 8. It depends on the size, of course, right? But you could probably cut that into half and then half again, and make tiles like 2 by 2 all the way up to whatever. Let's see, November 4th, 10 to 2, November 12th, $10 to do the class either day. Exactly. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Antonio. Appreciate you. There it is. For those of you who will watch later on, there's the information. I'll make sure I talk to the collective because I think what's missing there is the times. I think the dates, everything is on there except for the time, so I'll make sure that they update that. All right. Let me see. Is there anything else that I want to remind you, my fine folks out there, of? No, I think that's it. So, hey, sometimes the shows are just quick like this. Sometimes they last a little 45 minutes. Sometimes they go to an hour. But I try to keep everything under an hour. Okay. And that's why sometimes I speak kind of fast. And you don't see me talk about a lot of things. I got a lot to say about something. Today was kind of like an informative thing, just about kind of like, about me. And it's always nice when I get to talk about, so hey, this guy's been playing for a while. Hey, okay, so he's playing in these worlds, and I may not have run them all, and I may not have run every campaign setting, but I don't mind talking about them because I've played in them or seen people play. Because sometimes, believe it or not, it's almost like, and Antonio will tell you, I sometimes sit there, and I may not play all the video games that are out, but I like watching him play the video games. Assassin's Creed and some of the other ones that he plays. I sit there, I enjoy just watching him, and I'm like, wow, this is a cool storyline. This could turn into an adventure if you wanted to do that. Kind of like something that you can put in your campaign. So I'm always thinking, hey, this is cool. It's the same thing with campaigns. I sometimes just watch people play. 15, 20 minutes, I may sit down and just watch it and not play, but I watch how they run their game and the setting and stuff, because this is how ideas, imagination gets going, right? And sometimes you're looking for something you're missing something in your own campaign, and also you see, this leads me down this road. It's like when you get on the internet and you go to something and it leads you down the rabbit hole. Well, it's the same way. You're watching somebody play a game, you're watching somebody run their campaign, and you go down the rabbit hole, kind of, you're there, and all of a sudden, wow, it's been 2 hours, but you're watching, you're learning, and you're seeing what's going on, right? So that's what I'm talking about. So, all right. Antonio, thank you for that. Sarah, thank you for reminding me that that's important. Don't forget this whole weekend into Halloween. Hey, Tom, that's all right. Tom, we added the times. We put some information out there about the times for Fiona's miniature tile working, terrain working class. So no problem. But welcome to the show regardless. It's the wonderful thing is that you'll be able to go and look at this later on and see it. I was talking about campaign settings today. A couple of the new things that came out, especially these. I like these magnetic dice trays. They're very cool. I'm probably gonna get the purple one. Purple. I don't know what to tell you. Love it. But thank you all for joining me and watching the show. And for those of you who watch it later, thank you very much. I really appreciate your support. So, but as always, may the world rise up to be your feet, and may all your adventures be successful. This is John from John's Dungeon Corner from the Collective in Altamont Springs, Florida. Wishing you a wonderful day, a great weekend, and I will see you after Halloween. But have a wonderful Halloween. Happy Halloween to everybody out there. Do lots of trick-or-treating. And don't forget, Christmas is right around the corner. So start thinking about gift certificates, Christmas list. You can come here and put that out there. So, hey, let's do it. And I will see you fine folks next Friday right here at the Collective. See you then.